Good morning and good afternoon to all of our attendees. Thank you for joining today's Family Office Network's webinar series, Powering the Personalized Enterprise with AI. Before we jump into today's presentation, I would like to give you a little background on our speakers. First, Jean Balache is co-founder and CEO of Cerebri AI, and this is his third software startup. Jean took his first startup, MetroWorks, public. Their flagship product, Code Warrior, was named Product of the Year on the Macintosh platform. It was acquired by Motorola, where he served as VP of Business Development. His second startup, RedWorks, applied data science to retail supply chain operations for companies such as Walmart, CVX, and Best Buy. RedWorks was acquired by a division of the Kion in Frankfurt, Germany, a $10 billion supply chain company. Jean was a finalist for EY Entrepreneur of the Year in Austin and holds a master's in finance from London School of Economics. Also joining us is Arun Prakash, CFO. Arun has been with the company for 5 years and was previously a partner at Virgo Capital, a private equity firm investing in software and tech-enabled service companies. Prior to that, he led technology strategy and software development programs at Boeing Satellite Development Center. He has an MBA from IMT Sloan and a master's in engineering from Stanford University. At the end of today's presentation, we will have time for Q&A, and we always encourage your questions. Please use your questions chat option on the right side of your screen to send over all questions so we can answer them accordingly. Gentlemen, I will let you get started.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. We're pleased to present to the network. My name is Jean. I'm a co-founder and CEO. We started Cerebri AI in 2016, and our goal was to provide for real-time personalization. So what problem did we solve? You can imagine, and of course, we never anticipated, but if you look at the COVID-19 impact on e-commerce, digital commerce, it's clear to everyone in the world today that digital is going to be becoming a very important factor in everyone's life. So all enterprises love digital because it provides for a seamless experience for the customer, and it provides it at a very low cost. And ideally, everything's automated, and we basically have a situation where you go to the website, you buy your products, and it's delivered. So the question then becomes, well, who talks to the customer? In the previous business models, bricks and mortar, call center, etc., you would have an interaction with the customer. If the interactions are all digital, you still have to make a decision what to do with the customer. So in the answer of who talks to the customer on a digital basis, the answer is no one. But you still have to deal with the customer. You still have to make offers. You still have to take action. So what's a reasonable surrogate for face-to-face dealings with a customer would be understanding as much as you can of a customer by the digital footprint they leave inside your enterprise. And heretofore, most of the transactions, most of the marketing interactions, most of the call center, warranty, recalls, whatever, are all in separate silos. They're in legacy systems. Data's hard to get a hold of. It's usually in batch mode. It's not in real time. So how do you access the information required to have a holistic view of the customer? This is the problem we solve, but we solve it in a very elegant fashion. We solve it at scale in real time. In other words, if there are elements of my customer journey with a vendor that have changed up to the minute, can I use that information in making my decisions in my artificial intelligently enhanced decision engines in order to decide what actions and offers to make? So we do that in less than a second. So for instance, if you're on a website and you're clicking through and you're buying an auto, you're buying a wireless plan, you're buying a bank product, and you've been on the website for several minutes, Can I take a snapshot of your click stream, bring it to the customer journey, go through all the QA process for the data, and then update your journey with me, the vendor? Can I score you again? Can I decide the actions based on those models? And then can I send it back to the website or the call center or even the salesperson in a bricks and mortar environment? So that's what we do end to end. Our big competitive advantage, no gaps. There's no gaps in the system from the time we even think of the data all the way through to the actions back to where it belongs. So we've built a very sophisticated software platform to be able to manage all of that. It has 4 key components. Data engineering, it's called data science for a reason. Data comes first. How you onboard data, we have a state-of-the-art system for doing that. It's very unique, and I'll explain that in a minute. We do modeling. Lots of companies do modeling. We specialize in the propensity and affinity models. Those are fancy terms for propensity. Who wants to buy this quarter? Affinity, what do they want to buy? Now that doesn't mean they will. That may mean they're interested. The propensity tells us when. The affinity tells us what. And then adjudication. Clearly, if a company has different products, and most of our global companies that we do business with do, obviously there are different priorities as time moves on from a profit cost point of view. It may be that you want to sell a product more than another. It could be the cost dynamics are such that if I like 3 or 4 of the products that the vendor sells, and the vendor's trying to decide which one, the one with the most profit may be the most interesting. So data is your friend, it's not the enemy. We've made data very easy to do. We have a very sophisticated timing architecture to be able to decide when to send an offer and when not to. We do it in very fast and real time. We allow people to collaborate because now you have a holistic view of the customer, useful for call center, for web interactions, for bricks and mortar personnel. We start QA on data the millisecond it hits our system. In traditional sort of IT for large enterprise, it used to be that you'd get an update once a month, and then it started becoming once a week, and then once a day, and now maybe every hour. But in all of those processes, there's enough time to do quality control on the data to make sure you're using good data to make good decisions. And of course, we have insights which generate lift in terms of the financial metrics. We've done a number of different projects across 3 verticals in particular: banking and finance, telecom, which nowadays is mostly wireless, and automotive. We've had great results. The retail banking case here was for a bank in Toronto. We were able to increase their originations $750 million. The second one, auto retail, is for a global brand in the UK that owns 65 dealerships. We were able to increase their targeted campaign, the effectiveness of their targeted campaigns, selling over $50 million of vehicles. We had one client who was a bit different, central bank, the Bank of Canada, and we helped them introduce AI into their macroeconomic forecasting, which generated an enormous amount of technology that we've rolled back into our core product. In fact, it uses our core product every day to update their forecast. State of the art, one of the top central banks in the world in their respective category. And workforce management, which is a brand new vertical that we were asked to look at over Christmas. And in 3 weeks, we were able to tell a major vendor to a manufacturing company that has over 100,000 employees, which employees were going to leave or churn in the next 30 days in terms of their interaction with the company and the data they provided. So we've had lots of experience. We are on our 3rd generation platform that we're just launching now. The last 5 years have been used to build the product with data sets from a number of major international companies. Our very first customer was Mercedes-Benz Financial Services in Detroit. We've dealt with Scotiabank in Toronto, the Qatar National Bank in Doha, the Bank of Canada, as mentioned previously. Ooredoo is a 125 million subscriber wireless company, again based in Qatar. We're very popular there. I'm not sure why. That just sort of worked out. Ford in the UK, we did a Verizon churn project, 10 billion events, and we're partnering with EY Advisory on financial services, approaching customers here in the United States. That's started this year. This is our user experience, very easy to use. It incorporates all the data of the customer. This is a banking example. We have a similar UX for auto. It takes a few days to update this for whatever amount of KPIs you're interested in, the action models that result, and all of the data. We also have a traditional marketing top-down analysis. Our view of the customer was, in simple terms, we wanted to have a salesman sitting in front of you, be able to look at one screen and get a holistic view of you based on the digitally recorded information that the vendor that the salesman's working for, that they have available to them. And this is their customer journey for this particular KPI, which is a patented metric that we invented called Cerebri value. And it basically looks forward and says, what is your commitment to the brand in dollars and cents or any local currency? In this particular case, you can see that the commitment we view is going to go up. If you press the button here, you'll get all the various products and where we think the upside is. This is their risk, not just the risk to the customer. We did risk adjudication at a bank in Toronto. Risk is core to banking, but we also, because of our work at Bank of Canada, we're able to do sectorial risk in terms of, as we found out in COVID-19, everyone has a job, and when COVID-19 hit, some people didn't have a job. So your individual risk may be low, but your sectorial risk may be higher. And then of course, churn, this is important in banking, especially in credit cards, where there's a higher propensity to leave. And then of course, upselling and cross-selling all the various products. And this goes to the right as far as you want, it'll scroll. And each one of these has a customer journey. This is the front end. This is data. It's hard to explain without doing a demo. Make an excessively long story short. Traditionally, in large enterprises, you have very big databases, billions and billions of events. At Verizon, we were dealing with 5 million customers, 17 million lines out of 150 million lines roughly they have. And that was 10 billion events, and that only covered 2 years. So traditionally, big companies use very complex SQL data architectures in order to be able to access data, and then they use what's called an OLAP infrastructure to be able to report on it. What we've done is we've eliminated all of that, and when data comes in, we have a series of transformers that deal with the data at the individual field level, and we keep it there and we persist it at that level so that every data element is available for every AI model and for other work as well from an analytical point of view. This is a dramatically easy system to use, highly secure. All these transformers can be locked so no one can change the data the millisecond it hits our system. There's auditability, there's traceability, they're pre-written. There's about 40 that we've pre-written in total. So this system is truly value add from a data science point of view. Data scientists prefer to do the science, not a lot of this data engineering, which must be done to have good results. We filed 24 patents and we've had 8 awarded. Our patents are increasingly cited by other companies, including very large companies. The latest one got issued last week, number 10. which is probably the most important one so far. This is the ability, if you're cruising on a website, which people are wont to do these days, and you're looking at various things and you're shopping in effect, and the vendor doesn't know who you are. So wouldn't they love to ask you a question so that they could learn more about you? They don't want to antagonize you and ask you 50 questions because you're just going to leave because you're not interested. And you're potentially not interested in being identified as to exactly who you are. But I'd love to know something more about you so that I can tailor an offer. So this is what we call the next best question. You have next best actions, what to do best next in terms of acting with regards to the customer. This is the question I'd like to ask. The ability to use AI to determine what question would get the most valuable information per customer. That's what we patented in number 10, and we were awarded that last week. That took 3 years. It was one of the earliest that we did, and we're really happy about that. So we have a huge patent portfolio for our size. And as you can see, we've invested a lot of dollars in the ability to generate these patents. We have a very experienced team. This is the finance and technology team. About 30 out of 35 people in the company are in technology. We've had a very small business team because we've had to build the product. And that took an enormous effort. And you can see from all the various things that I've talked about that doing that at scale and at speed. Scale means being able to do real-time update of a customer data set, an individual customer actions, and the KPI models. Do all of that in less than a second and do between 1 and 2,000 per second with no gaps. So this is like she said earlier, I've done 3 startups. This is the second data science. My last one, we did distribution science in effect for the largest retailers in the world. We did the pharmacy supply chain for Walmart, and we did the vaccine supply chain for Merck with UPS. So interesting, we did that a few years ago. Alain, I met Alain because Motorola bought my first startup, and we were trying to get something together when we both left. We both left about the same time. He's written the patents. He's done a lot of patent work at Motorola, and he's absolutely world class in that effort. And Arun introduced himself earlier. As I said, we have a very skilled team. Over 60% of the team has a master's or a PhD or both. We have a number of competitors. CX, customer experience, is a very big business. It's over $100 billion a year in software. And basically, we have, we think, one of the very rare exceptions to having a complete AI platform end-to-end from data to insights and CX focused in particular. The platform can be used for other things, but we've really honed in on CX to be able to manage the propensity and affinity situations with regards to our major multinational clients. Gartner is sort of the overseers of IT spend in terms of what IT companies look to do. We've been cited by them 2 years in a row in a number of different reports, and we're one of 10 vendors they highlighted with regards to doing CX work and customer journey analytics, which is what they call what we do. So our revenue, we were really getting going in the end of 19, beginning of 20, and then COVID-19 hit. We were literally flying over Wuhan to Beijing mid-January with our advisor and one of our investors, Arcus Capital, who were helping us and did a great job of introducing us in China. And of course, all of that stopped. And we had 2020 was quite a difficult year for us. We were able to survive because we have a good team, and we took the necessary steps. And now we're in the process of putting together the sales and marketing organization to couple with our relatively, well, we just have a fantastic technology team. from what we hear from everyone who deals with us. So our revenue is modest in 19 and 20. It's starting to grow. We're about to sign a wireless company to a license. Trust Ford, which was going 100 miles an hour, no pun intended, in 19, stopped in 20, and they're in the process of restarting now. And we have several other major customer engagements that are coming, but we have to add to our headcount, and we have to increase staffing. And of course, we have good prospects with E&Y, who's our first sort of channel partner that we've been able to put in place. So we're looking forward with anticipation. The reason for this financing is to be able to fund the sales and marketing rollout of what we think is our third generation product, which is really hits the mark end to end in our customer problem set. That's it. Thank you very much. That's the presentation. And I think Arun is going to moderate any questions you might have.
Great, thanks, John. So yeah, please add your questions to the I guess the question section, and I'll start with one. John, can you give a little more detail on how one of the customers is using the platform?
Well, the aforementioned Trust Ford is a good example. They run dozens of marketing campaigns every year in terms of selling. They do about $3 billion US in sales in the UK. They sell between 15 and 20,000 vehicles a year, and they must target their customers. And what that means is they don't want to spam their customers. They want to send things to the customers that are personalized, that are meaningful. If give you an example of a real-time problem, a simple one in auto, you've bought 3 convertibles in a row. Yesterday you had a newborn in the family, and you're on Ford's website looking at an SUV. Does Ford go back in your history and say, well, he buys the convertibles, we're going to sell him a convertible, let's give him an offer? Or do we send him an offer for the SUV with a kiddie seat in the back? So this is a real-time problem, which seems kind of silly, but in the end, if you present the right offer to the right customer at the right time, you're going to increase your sales. And so that's what Ford uses this for. In the Scotiabank case, what they wanted to do was increase their loan originations. They wanted to sell more. And same problem, different vertical, but same problem. I want to sell more. Different set of circumstances. Their problem was I have to adjudicate the risk of the customer. The customer wants us to finance the aforementioned vehicle. Can they afford it? Are they a good risk? Do we want to lend them the money? Are they going to pay us back? Is there a risk of prepayment? Do they go in and out of vehicles causing us to pay loan origination fees, etc.? So in that case, we increase their sales by better analyzing the risk, not targeting the customer. So there are a variety of different things people need, and it just depends on the problem that's trying to be solved, the customer's trying to solve. There are dozens of KPIs, key performance indicators, that are necessary to satisfy all customer experience issues.
Got it. And you mentioned a couple different use cases. So how repeatable are the implementations that we do?
Well, the first thing is the technology used end to end has to be standard. Otherwise, it's a custom job every time. And that's the problem in data science now, is that you can build models fairly easily that do at least useful things, but how do you put them in production? How do I get real-time results on a website in less than 1 second? So we have a standard platform that has standard tools that dramatically lowers the time frame for doing the work and deploying. The workforce, is an employee going to churn? Are they going to leave? the next 30 days. Obviously, with the employment situation here in the United States in particular, staff is hard to find, so we'd like to know who's going to leave. We did that end-to-end in a brand new vertical, never seen it before, in 17 days. And in data science terms, that's lightning fast. So it is repeatable. On the customer experience side, the key models are propensity and affinity and actions, next best actions. Those are the three key models. And those are generic now, and we're able to plug data into those very quickly compared to 5 years ago. And we can basically get them done, not in 17 days in every case, but it's a matter of weeks and maybe a couple of months for very difficult. Most of the time is spent on the data front end, not the model. And the data front end is getting the data ready. And that's why we have an extraordinary set of tools that are just fantastic for doing that, including all the quality checks you would expect.
Got it. Kind of on the same note, following along, you've got a lot of players in the space. What is the real secret sauce of Cerebri AI that really makes it stand out in the amongst competition?
Well, I was presenting to a major bank in New York 3 weeks ago, and they said, "What's the best thing in your product? The data front end that makes data engineering easy, or the AI modeling which generates great results?" And I said neither. The real secret sauce we have is we have no gaps from the customer to the insight. If the customer registers a digitally recorded event of any genre, and our customer has it somewhere in the data, their data, and we can get access to it, from there all the way to the insight and back, there's no gaps. And we think it's state of the art, basically end to end. And our ability to turn around use cases is incredible from a standing start compared to just about anybody else.
Got it. Okay. You mentioned the focus on the next round of capital is going to go toward building out sales and marketing. What is the go-to-market strategy overall that you're planning?
We plan to have 50% of our sales come through channel partners. We have an interesting relationship we're building in Mexico. We have E&Y Advisory for financial services in the United States, and we expect 50% to be direct sales.
Got it. And do you have you mentioned some customers globally, so what is your view on global expansion and selling globally?
Well, it's an interesting question because pre-COVID, everyone said, how do you span the globe? Post-COVID, with Zoom and Teams, no one questions it anymore. So there's been a fundamental dichotomy, a change, a technical disruption in the selling process, which is people are much more comfortable dealing with distance than they were before. And this idea that you have to be on site to do work has pretty much been mitigated by the circumstances we find ourselves in. We have 3 offices, one in Austin, one in Toronto, and one in Washington, D.C. We have never had a problem recruiting. We got a great data science team, which is quite unusual on the recruiting side. And we put ourselves in the right places, but we've been doing what we're doing on this call today, Zoom, GoToMeeting, WebEx, Teams, the whole, all the players. We've been doing this for years so the disruption to our core business internally was almost none in terms of COVID-19, but in terms of selling, it's had a huge positive impact from that point of view. So I was on the phone this morning with Qatar. Tomorrow, Thursday night, I'm on the phone in Japan. So it's actually worked to small business advantage. Would I prefer to go on a plane once in a while? Probably. I guess my wife would like it even more than me.
Good. So you mentioned some of the verticals you're in. You showed examples of financial services, auto. telco. What is special about these verticals? And then combining with another question we got, what sector is really emerging to be very attractive for Cerebri AI, if there is one?
First of all, if you look at B2C, business to consumer, the same consumer buys a car, has a bank account, buys a house, has a wireless something. So in essence, a lot of the data is the same. The events are different, but if you look at the verticals in terms of the problems you're trying to solve, there's two fundamental problems. There's the big purchase, the big bang. You buy a mortgage in a bank, you buy a car. You don't buy a car every year, but you pay your credit card every month, or you should. You pay your wireless bill every month. So you have two fundamental business problems: subscription, monthly payments, in and out, in and out, in and out, etc., and then big purchases. Those are two fundamentally different problems. It doesn't matter what vertical you're in. You have to master those two problems for almost all vertical, whichever one you pick. Well, buying a car is the same as a mortgage. The credit card is the same as the wireless. It's the same as the service plan at the auto. So we've mastered those two key problems. We started in auto. We have an office in downtown Toronto surrounded by banks. We said, well, that's interesting. What can we do at the banks to help? And obviously the subscription model, the service work that we did with Ford, that applies. So we were able to apply our technology relatively quickly. And when you look at wireless, wireless is, who knows more about you than anybody else? Two things: your phone, because they know where you are, and your credit card, what you spent your money on. And those two things operate in exactly the same way. They have churn problems the same. They have a lot of different things that are relatively the same in terms of the data flow that you see. So we don't ascribe any importance to one vertical or another. We ascribe more importance to the people we're dealing with, at the customers who want to buy and want to develop a better understanding of their customer. That's what we focus on.
Good. And you also mentioned the employee journey or the employee churn problem. So what other use cases outside of the customer could Cerebri's technology be applied to?
Other than these particular upselling and customer experience, the workforce.
Other than the customer side. Yeah.
On the customer side?
Outside of customers, you have employees. You mentioned employee experience. Is that another market where Cerebri could go into? And given that, are there other markets where Cerebri could go into that are not even like the customer, like telemetry?
Yeah. So in terms of the workforce management, we never thought about doing that until a customer asked us to. They said, we have a serious problem. We want to look at churn, but not churn in our customers, churn in our employees. And we looked at it and we said, well, that's interesting. Guess what? The dynamics on the AI side are pretty much the same. So we did it. That's why we did it so fast. So the modeling techniques that we use to figure out churn are pretty systematically the same. So workforce management is just a massive market relative to any other market you can think of. So that's one. And then recently we were asked, what do you do in terms of project management? Because the project management's interesting. We have a lot of the same problems you have. We have things that aren't on time, things that go out of time. We have changes to the system, real-time changes to data. They must update various things. We have to take actions. And so that's one we never thought of. And when we looked at it closely, there might be interesting possibilities. So we told the vendor, find a customer significant enough. And they do oil the people who asked us do oil platforms, billion-dollar projects. These aren't, build a rec room for your house or whatever. So that's another one. So there's any number of different problem sets that we can do. We're kind of focused on CX. The workforce management was interesting, and in that case, because we don't have the capacity to deal with it on the sales and marketing side, we'll look for a channel partner who does, a vendor who has access to that type of data set and that type of problem. But we have no lack of things that we can do to dramatically increase the valuation of the company.
Got it. Okay. You mentioned your IP portfolio. Can you talk about how you think about the patent strategy and why the significant investment has been made in that side of the business?
Yeah, interesting question. It's my third startup, third state-of-the-art platform I've built. The first one had 150,000 users in 80 countries when we sold to Motorola. The second processed probably $75 billion of product a year in about 80 facilities around the United States for some of the largest retailers and service providers, UPS, etc. I never did one patent. And in hindsight, it was a mistake because the patents crystallize the IP, and they also provide for interesting interaction, especially with large multinationals. We have a very extensive patent portfolio. We have over 1,000 pages of filings, and we believe that as the patent portfolio matures, the problem with patents is you have to have you must take the long view because it takes several years to get through the process. So we started filing patents in earnest in 2018. So now we have 8 that are allocated. They're starting to come a little faster now. And we have, as you saw, we had multiple citations. And of course, what we're going to do is we're going to license. The NBQ patent is extremely valuable. And the only mitigating factor in the value is our ability to go prosecute its use. So the idea of asking a next question, and that patent date is, the effective date of the patent is 2018. It's not 2021. So some of the thinking that we've done early on, 2016, 17, 18, that generated a lot of the patents is now much more common currency than it was when we started. When we started, all of this was nuclear physics. It's not anymore because, especially COVID-19, just absolutely, I was selling omni-channel e-commerce retail order processing in 2007, 8, 9, 10. It was a lonely wilderness. It took a long time for people to understand the customer dictates the channel, not the vendor. Those days are gone. So similarly, when we started in 2016, we had a very omni-channel strategy from the get-go, and we really, we think we understood that problem pretty well, having dealt with some of the largest retailers in the world who are all competing with Amazon and everyone else online. And in effect, the strategy in a patent portfolio reflects that, and the ability to do e-commerce well, easily, quickly, efficiently, that's reflected in the patent strategy. So we expect there's going to be some serious licensing opportunities. We probably have to get a few more allocated before that happens, but it's coming.
You mentioned the team. Obviously, there's a big demand for this kind of technical talent. What allows you guys to recruit better and find the right talent amongst the competition like Google, et cetera?
Experience. Built several teams. Alain built several teams. We know what to look for. We've got a pretty good sense of who works in small companies, who doesn't. If you want challenges and you want to be left alone to do good things, you come work for us. Just because you work for a brand name doesn't mean you do interesting things. You might, right? So if you go work at Google, you might get an interesting project and you might not. I don't think we have any uninteresting projects. We have, because we're so state of the art across the board in what we do, and we've invented an enormous amount. And getting back to the previous question about the patents reflect the inventiveness of our team. And that's one of the things I regret not doing earlier in my other startups, in spite of the fact that it's a relatively expensive process. We have over half the staff are named in our patents. It's not one or two guys in the back of the bus who are doing all this on the back of an envelope. We have almost all of the staff on the technical side involved in one way or another in these patents that we've developed. So that we've sent in. The interesting thing is we haven't had one refused yet. So we're not doing this to be gratuitous and just throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. So it's all sort of combined together. You know, a lot of people want to be named on patents. If they're engineers, they never get a chance because their employer doesn't want to bother. You know, and then we have a world expert on doing this who advises a couple of very, very, very big companies in our business on their patent stuff. So I've never had a problem recruiting in any of the companies I've had in any of the countries we've set up, from Japan to Germany to Canada to the US. You have to really work at it. We had a full-time recruiter for a long time when we were in the growth phase. We've leveled off the past year and a half or so because we've had to get through all the whole COVID things. But I guess we know what we're doing.
Great. You showed the financial projections, about $500,000 of ARR in Q3. What's your projection for the end of the year?
I assume the question is based on the fact that we're going to be provided a certain amount of financing from this phone call. Is that the base predicate for the question? No, so. It's all a question of our ability to scale the revenue is simply a function of capital and putting people in place. We've been at it 5.5 years. We have a lot of contacts that we've made. We're working on some pretty interesting transactions. Our platform's fantastic, and so I think it's hard to say, but if it's not 7 figures, I'll be really disappointed.
Great, no, that's great. And then what's the market looking like for strategic exits for the business?
That's a good question. That's something that's hard to talk about because we get asked that fairly often. The first time it happened was in 2019. We did a use case. They wanted to get done quickly. We did it very fast, and they wanted to buy us, and we couldn't agree on terms. So if we want to exit, it's not a problem.
Can you talk more about some of the buyers out there and what the types of buyers that are would look at this type of platform, this company?
Yeah, customers?
Types of, oh, sorry, go ahead, yeah.
So there's two. There's customers, people who use the technology, large banks, large technology companies, you know, people who are in the technology business and understand the value to using it both internally and externally. And then you have pure vendors who, in adding this functionality to their existing technology suite of products they sell to multinationals. So you have the customer set, the vendor set. And we've had conversations with both. But these are large enterprises. It's hard. This is big business stuff.
Got it. And precluding any of these conversations going anywhere, what is it going to take? What are the main challenges to get this Cerebri AI to become a $1 billion business?
It's just capital now.
How much capital would it take, do you think, to get to that level?
We're going to need to probably invest $15 million in the business over the next probably 12 months. We don't need all that money necessarily, but when you're taking people out of jobs and putting them into a new situation, you have to give them a certain amount of runway. So you can't be living hand to mouth, and you have to have sort of a plan. And so that's the step we're in right now. We don't need to do it right away, but we need to have visibility into that, how we're going to get there. And so that's the what we're working on right now. The product, we're just now launching our 3rd generation. We know it works. There are no black holes. We have the sufficient inventiveness in it. We've validated this with some of the largest players in the world. It takes a long time to get to a product so that you can actually go sell it aggressively. The technology business is a business, and it's not for the faint of heart, because you're selling something that downloads on a wire, and boom, the bill's $500,000 or $1 million a year. So so you have to have a complete solution, and that's where we are right now.
Great. And with this round, what type of investor are you looking for outside of providing capital?
Well, ideally, anyone who provides value over and above the money is appreciated. The first priority is the money. The second priority is, can I leverage the relationship I'm going to build over time with the investor, so that we can both help ourselves. From our side, what we need is we need customers. We need relationships. When you're dealing with a small company selling to a big company, trust really matters. And who you are, and what you've done, and who you know really, really matters.
And you mentioned the capital needed. What's kind of the ideal raise right now, and if you could give guidance on any terms as well?
I'm not allowed to talk about that. The CFO has to address that.
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, so we're seeking to raise, the $10 to $15 million right now, and obviously terms will be reasonable. It's a valuation deserving of that. But we've been continually increasing the valuation since we started with a slight down round in COVID, but we've grown from there. And so if you raise $10 to $15 million, the valuation kind of comes out at a given amount. So we're looking for lead investors to help us set that term, and but we're also willing to bring on others who can follow along. And what Jean said is get investors that bring value, where in additional capital and relationships, and all of our investors actually have done that to date. They've been super helpful and engaged, even individuals who have just been good at business and can bring us a contact here and there. So that's been a great thing about our investor base so far, and we want to continue that. Those are all the questions that we've gotten. If there's any more, we've got a few minutes left in our time slot, but I'll just wait a second to see if any others pop up.
While we're waiting, I do want to thank all of our attendees for joining us today. So even after this webinar is completed, we would be more than happy to answer any additional questions that you have. I will be following up with everyone individually, so I would be more than happy to get you in contact with the team.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all the questions, it looks like. So thank you, Lindsay, and thank you for attending, everyone.
Thank you so much. We look forward to speaking with everyone soon, and we hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.